Hey guys, MattFlower6 here, and I'm sure you've heard the news about England, the disappointment yet again, but Roy Hodgson has resigned, so now, that could be a good thing, now we're going to look at possible future England managers. I've got 5 players at the moment that could become managers, and 5 potential managers just in the future that are already managers. So let's get into number 5, Jack Butland. Now, Jack Butland is, on paper, one of the most promising England players at the moment. If Joe Hart isn't in and he's had a bad run of games, he could be going. Jack Butland could become England's #1 keeper. That wouldn't surprise me. So he has the potential to become a future England captain. He's already the first team choice at Stoke, and definitely going to become England's first choice keeper, maybe captain. He's already got 4 caps, considering he's a 23-year-old goalkeeper. The only problem is he's young and unproved, and we don't really know his mentality and knowledge to be a manager. He might not have what's in him to settle with the media and everything, but definitely a possibility. Jack Butland, number 5. Okay, so coming in at number 4, Bill Jagielka. That's a bit of a weird one, but he is very experienced and loyal to his club Everton, and he has captained England, which is pretty impressive. Not many people have captained England. The only problem with this is he is not the best player of all time. A bit of an understatement, but he's not brilliant. He was good, but he's not brilliant, and I'm not sure he has the knowledge to become a great manager. That's why he's at number 4, Bill Jagielka. Now, some of you may think that James Milner would never be a good manager, but I think that he might have the potential to be a good manager. He has got about 50 caps for England, which is pretty impressive, and his knowledge of the game is second to none. He's very knowledgeable about the game, very clever, and actually very underrated. So I reckon his knowledge could be good enough to be a manager. But it's just, if you're going into a match, you're 1-0 down, you should be winning, and the manager needs to give you a team talk, and it's James Milner, the most boring man in football. What's he going to say? He's not going to be very inspiring, which is why he's only at number 3, although he's very knowledgeable, James Milner. So Michael Carrick's a little bit of an odd one, but I think definitely he could be a future manager. He's very knowledgeable of the game. I think more knowledgeable than Milner. He very rarely makes any mistakes. Very reliable. He knows his stuff. Very experienced as well. 500 games, 34 caps for England. I'm surprised he hasn't captained England actually. And I'm sure if he was manager, he'd be good with the media, good with everything. The only reason he's not number 1 on this list actually is because I just think number 1 would be a slightly better manager than, for one reason, than Carrick. So let's get into number 1. Now, I bet none of you saw this one coming. Scott Parker. It's a bit of an odd one. He's a bit out there. But he has captained England. Although he has only played 18 times for England, he has captained them. He's played 400 games in his career altogether, or at least 400. But the reason I think he'd be a good manager, because he's a born leader. If England are down at half time, he would definitely raise the spirits. He's maybe not the best footballer of all time, but definitely a good leader and very knowledgeable. The only reason I put him above Carrick is because some great England players, people like Alan Shearer and Gary Neville, when they were managing for Newcastle and Valencia respectively, they were awful. So sometimes the better players are the worst managers, and Scott Parker, he wasn't the best player. So this is why I think he should be, on paper, a good manager. So that's why Scott Parker is number 1 of future England managers. Now let's get into the current managers. Okay, so the 5th best manager to take over the England role after Hodgson, I think, is Brendan Rodgers. Now, Brendan Rodgers is a bit of a weird one. I think Brendan Rodgers is very good at getting the team pumped up, getting their mentality going. But the problem with him is I don't think he's the best manager of football. I don't think he's the cleverest. I don't think he has the best tactics. I just don't think he has the football brain to be a very good manager. He's a decent manager, now at Celtic, of course, but I don't think he has the mentality to be the England manager, one of the hardest jobs in the world. Also, he's foreign, and I think the best England managers would be English, because they do it more from their heart, not just for the money. So that's why Brendan Rodgers is at number 5 on this list. Okay, so the 4th best manager, I think, to take over England is Alan Pardew. Now, Alan Pardew, I don't think he would be a brilliant England manager, but the reason I put him at number 4 ahead of Rodgers is because I think he would be a good transition manager. Alan Pardew is good for a short period of time. He can come in, he can do a job for a year or 2 maybe, but after a while his team talks just aren't as good as they used to be. He can't get the players pumped up, and he's not the cleverest. So Alan Pardew, I reckon he'd be good as an interim manager or a short-term manager, but if you're looking for a long-term option, I don't think Alan Pardew is the solution. So that is why he is at number 4 on this list. So at number 3, Arsene Wenger. Now Arsene Wenger is proven 100% to be an absolute legendary manager. He is one of the best the game has ever seen. That 100% at Arsenal for so long, very loyal. He hasn't looked under pressure that much, maybe a bit in the last few seasons, but he can cope with it. And one of the really good things is we've got a very, very young, promising squad in England at the moment, and Wenger is good at getting young players and improving them. The only reason I think he would lack as an England manager wouldn't be the perfect solution. One, because he's foreign and I don't think he would mean it as much as an English manager, and 2, I don't think he's as good as he used to be. I think he was a very good manager, I think he still is a very good manager, but I don't think he is as good, and I think if he became the England manager he would get worse and worse. So that is why Wenger's only at number 3, even though he is an incredible manager. Okay, so number 2, we have got Eddie Howe. Now, it was very close between number 2 and number 1, like the players. But Eddie Howe, he's very promising. Very, very promising. If you think of the job he's done for Bournemouth, he got them up 2 divisions to the Premiership. And if you looked at their squad, it was terrible compared to the rest of the Premier League sides. I mean, maybe they were the second worst team in the Premier League last season, Norwich being the worst. But he kept Bournemouth up with the little budget and the shallow squad. He's definitely one of the most underrated managers, I think. The only problem is, for England, I think it may be a bit too soon. I think in maybe 4 years, maybe even 8 years, he would definitely be the perfect solution. But just maybe not right now. I reckon the England job could ruin him too early. That is why he's only at number 2. But before I go into number 1, I would just like to say a couple of honourable mentions to people who aren't on FIFA. Number 1, Gareth Southgate. He's a maybe. I reckon he'd be okay as an England manager. Obviously he's the England under-21 manager at the moment, but he wouldn't be my number 1 choice anyway. Probably be my number 3. And also Gus Hiddink. It's a bit of a weird one, but I think he's out of a job at the moment, and I really like him because he's honest. He gets to the point. If they do something wrong, he'll take the blame, and that's just what we need as an England manager. But now let's go on to number 1. Now I'm sure none of you saw this one coming, like Scott Parker. Gary Monk. Now Monk is like Howe in the fact that he's inexperienced. He's only had 1 managerial job and he's very young. But in that managerial job, yes, I know he had a bad last season with Swansea and he got sacked, but I think maybe slightly unfairly. But in the season before, if you looked at the job he'd done, he got Swansea to a very, very solid and respectable league position. He definitely could have got a promotion to an even bigger club, but he didn't, and in the next season he got sacked, which I think was unfair. But he is definitely one that I think he could handle the pressure. Like Howe, I don't think he could handle the pressure, but Gary Monk, I reckon he could, because he is honest. He always, if something goes wrong, he will take the blame. He's very, very reliable, and he would make the country proud, I think, and he would do it all from his heart, which is why I think Gary Monk should be the next England manager. So I hope you enjoyed my lists. Write down below if you agree, disagree, which players or current managers you would have as a future England manager. Like, subscribe, also comment down below what video you want me to do next, and I'll see you next time.